This is Brownie's Podcast!
Welcome to Brownie's Podcast. Campbell Brown, Jonathan Brown, myself, Dean Thomas, Beck's our social media legend. She's here. Broad's our producer's here. The whole team's here. And then after this one, we're having a 2-podcast break. So we won't be back proper till like next week, but best ofs will be playing. Pretty fun week of football. Let's get straight into it. Large John, did you watch much, old boy?
I had the weekend off, Dino. Jeez, it was nice. Very relaxing. Took it easy with the kids. Kids annoyed the shit out of me. Had to move a few things around. I had to get a few things up from Melbourne and moved around. And a couple of removalists turned up, Dino. 4 of them, in fact. An Argentinian, a Mexican, a Paraguayan, and an Irishman. It's like this. It was like this. I thought it was a joke, like the start of a joke, walking in the boys. But geez, they did a magnificent job, the lads. And now, Dino, look what I found.
Wait, John, did you ask for all their passports before?
They actually said they were going out and drink last night.
Yeah.
Because they work Sunday. I said, you work Sundays? They go, yeah, we work every day. We're on visas. And they're going out Sunday night. And I said, well, how long's your visas last? They said, about 2 years. Mm-hmm. They've got about 6 months left. So the boys are desperately chasing around the Gold Coast nightclub scene, desperately trying to find a bride, an Australian bride, so they can extend things out, the lads. Good luck to them.
Good luck to them.
Pinot Noir. If you run into a Mexican, a Paraguayan, an Irishman, or an Argentinian in a bar, be very, very wary.
Pinot Noir.
Campbell, do you watch much footy, brother?
I watched a lot of football. There was a very good win by the Blues. They're up and about. The North Melbourne game was
how good,
spectacular.
Poor North. Let's just quickly do North now. 3 games in a row where they've lost. They beat Eagles, and then 2 narrow losses to big teams.
Correct. Getting better, improving with each week. Look, while they'll be disappointed that they didn't get the 4 points, I think they learnt a lot this week. They came from behind to nearly steal it. The week before, they were defending that Collingwood
that's right.
margin and got rolled. So, look, they're pretty exciting. Melbourne, absolutely nowhere. If it wasn't for Viney, May, and Max Gawn, they would have been pummeled last night. They're not playing finals.
They cooked, eh?
They're cooked.
But it was good to see.
It hasn't started well, though, did it? When you're talking about culture before the season even starts, and obviously Clayton Oliver had a fair bit to do with that, but they've had a checkered history since they won the premiership in 21, boys, haven't they? But Clayton Oliver symbolises it. You know, at the end of the day, if you can't have a full preparation coming into the season, the competition's way too hard. You can't expect to have success.
And no Brayshaw, Spargo, no Petrarca.
Yeah.
He's getting a hard tag every week. It was Will Phillips who did the job again. He played 3 quarters on Nick Dacos, did a good job. He did a brilliant job on Oliver. Oliver's not working hard enough around the ground, away from the stoppages, to stay involved in the game. He's almost just conceding.
Let's be honest, though, Brown Dog, we wouldn't exactly call it perfect preparation, would you?
No.
In this day and age, to be an AFL midfielder, to stand the test of the season, you need to have impeccable prep during the pre-season, otherwise they run into trouble.
Aerobically, when you're dancing on Revolver dance floor for 4 or 5 hours, most pre-seasons, he's getting his work in. He's getting the work in.
Being on that Revolver dance floor is the equivalent to high altitude training.
Some of the fittest men I've ever seen been on the dance floor there.
Exactly, especially when you got a vape. Hey, what other games do we want to talk about? Because there was a lot of ones, especially Brody's team, who didn't rock up.
Yeah, absolutely. Bro, I'm so glad that Brisbane Lions went to Adelaide and it's all over that Port Adelaide party, that 20-year reunion celebrating, beating us in the grand final, their only grand final, blah, blah, blah. I even had a South Australian journalist ring me just to try and even the article up. He thought, wanted a Brisbane Lions perspective. I wasn't that happy to take that call. So I was so glad that they went down and all over that team, and they're gone.
What an eloquent man. Eloquence.
I'd say the scoreline.
Well, it was beautiful to see the exits just getting filled up at 3/4 time.
Hey, I'm holding a gun. Am I pointing this at Hinkley or what?
I would say, despite the fact that we lost, we were probably the better team on the day, and it just didn't fall our way. There was a few decisions that just went against us. Let's put it that
Dog,
way.
is there a bullet coming towards Kinkley or what?
Not just yet, but look, he's been there a significant amount of time. They haven't won a premiership. On the back of last year, I think we thought that they would be in the mix again, and currently they're in 8th. So the season's not over for them, but geez, their form's been bad, and they got out of jail against the Hawks. They should never have won that.
True.
They're not playing good footy at all.
Well, also, we forget there's 9 games to go. We get stuck in the moment thinking, remember at the start of the season, GWS, they're a cut above. Always changes. There are 9 games to go, dog. Your mob will probably make the 8, let's be honest.
They're playing good footy. Yeah, they need to continue after the bye to come back with the same level of intensity, but they're in the mix. The Sydney Swans are head and shoulders above the rest of the competition. I've been looking for a few weeks now to find a chink in their armour, and there just isn't one. They're good players, play well every single week. Their defence is sound. Their forward line is hard to stop because they've got all these midfielders that hit the scoreboard. So even if you do a good job on Amadi, for instance, then you're still getting a couple of goals every week out of guys like Warner and Goulden and Heaney. So unless they...
And Wixie's back in with his teammates.
Chad. I'm a Chad man.
He's been warmed back into the group. The only
We embraced him.
the only thing I can think of is that they don't play much footy at the MCG, and the lingers, the ghosts of the grand final debacle against the Cats might still linger for a few players, but best side in the comp by a significant margin.
Bros, can you look up how many Swans games they have at the G left this season? What were you going to say, John?
Yeah, well, the MCG should suit them, though, dog, shouldn't they? But you're right, they've had a couple of ordinary grand finals, 16 and 22, of course, that were, they didn't really show up, did they? So, but normally when they do play at the MCG, it actually suits them because they run well and they kick the ball really well. So, still a fair way to go, as you said, Dino. They'll be dangerous. I think GWS can get their act back into gear. It's funny the ladder, isn't it? Because the back end of the top 8 are faltering. So all those teams that were going well early in the season are now faltering. You've got the Cats, GWS and Melbourne. And then you got Brisbane, Hawthorn and the Bulldogs starting to warm up from outside the top 8. So it's going to be a fascinating finish, as to how many teams can leapfrog. Because remember, we used to always talk about it was about round 8. All the stats would tell you round 8, the top 8 is virtually set. It was quite amazing how little change there was. This year, I think there's going to be a lot of changes, really. If we look at the round 8 ladder compared to what happens going into the finals, I think there's going to be significant change.
How many games?
Sydney officially plays 0 games at the MCG for the remainder of the year.
Okay, so they'll
9
they'll
games.
finish on top and they'll get a home final. They'll more than likely win that. They'll get a home prelim. So we won't see Sydney Swans at the MCG unless it's grand final day potentially.
That's wild.
Wild. I mean, North Melbourne played their one and only game at the MCG Saturday night.
What?
Once. Yeah, it's wild. Some of these sides just don't get an opportunity to play there.
And then there's Collingwood, who play 15 games at the MCG and have the last 10 pretty much at the MCG, which is a joke.
And they still think it's not enough.
No.
That's my God.
And that's when you hear AFL coaches talking about the inequity of AFL footy, right? That's one of the main things that they bang on about.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, coming up.
Oh, the inequities are everywhere, aren't they? But honestly, for Melbourne clubs to complain about inequities, or the Geelong clubs, it's absolutely ridiculous. Brown Dog, you've played in the state. I've played in the state. Broads, I just thought you didn't comment enough on what happened with Port Adelaide.
Oh, yeah.
Is Ken Hinkley surviving or not?
Well, actually, your mate Josh Carr is the succession plan ready to go. So I think there will eventually be a handover of Hinkley and Josh Carr, and I think they've already kind of said that. But he's in contract until the end of next year. It wouldn't surprise me if they bring that slightly forward and you start to see Josh Carr have more of an important role in the box and addressing the players.
Well, thank you.
Your supporters were turning on
you,
you,
Jared.
Well done. Good.
Thank you, Jared.
On the fence, Jared, what did you think about the supporters are starting to turn on Ken Hinkley?
Weak.
Well, the spitting's a lot, and they the huck to
Spit on that thing.
Wait. Your fans were spitting on your coach.
No, they just spit in the general vicinity. So when things don't go their way, they spit.
What is wrong with you feral pricks?
Yeah, they like a spit.
Hey, speaking of feral, I'm turning...
Can I just quickly on the spit, Dino? This is
please.
feral. A mate of mine told me he split up with his girlfriend. He'd been going out with her for a couple of years. Had to go back over. They were living together. Had to go back over to a place and pick up some clothes. And, so it was all cordial. Everything, as in red cordial. Cottage cordial. Everything was all good. So they left part of the, mutually parted ways. And he went to drive off and she called him back. And she tapped on the window, said, just wind down the window. And so he got, no worries. He wound down the window and she's giving him the greatest mouthful of spit, like a big one, just straight into his face. And then he's just...
Oh, my God.
Oh, gee whiz.
How's that for a little send-off?
That's not what you want. If they're going, huck, tour, spit on that thing, you don't want it to be in your face in the car.
Did not end that well.
Hey, coming up,
sorry, boys.
remember the guy that got the AFL said was dead and he wasn't dead?
Yes.
Michael Porter, he's said some words about it. We're going to listen to it later. But there was a few punches being thrown over the weekend, dog.
There were, and I never thought for the life of me, now 10 years into retirement, that I would be involved in a melee in the middle of the MCG. But Saturday night, there I was. There was a shot after the siren, so I made my way out into the middle of the ground to find Christian Salem, who was near the back pocket. Had to rush across the field while the kick was still being played, which is fine, to interview him. And
was that a pre-organised interview?
Yeah,
Doug?
it was. Yeah. So if North were in front, it was going to be Nick Larkey. It was Melbourne in front. So out I trot, and I grab him straight away. He was aware of it. Immediately the cameras come up, and all the players, like the whole of North Melbourne and Melbourne, were loitering sort of near me as I've grabbed Christian, and I just start with a normal halftime interview as we're walking off. 2-3 questions, pretty innocuous sort of stuff. And I started with, a little bit inconsistent there in the first quarter to the second quarter. What changed, Christian? And behind me, I could see Tristan Cherry, Steve May, Tommy McDonald. They were just starting to chest each other, push each other.
Can you smell a fight like a dog can smell rain?
Yeah. And I was smiling, and I just thought, I didn't think it was going to kick off. I didn't, right? So I've got my arm around Christian. Like, I'm holding the mic, and he answers, and I can see him looking over his right shoulder. He was getting twitchy, right? And I thought, nah, he's not, is he? I said, and then eventually I went, Christian, don't you dare. I'm going to save you an MRO fine, right? So
I think we got the audio. Can we have a listen?
I warned him.
Yeah, down here with Christian Salem as all the boys are starting to fire in for a fight. Christian, I'll keep you out of it. I might save you some money from the MRO. No, he's gone. He's jumped in there. This is an all-in down here, guys. It is getting very, very willing. And Stephen May is right in it. So's Zerha.
It's commentating the WrestleMania.
Commentating the
run off. Yeah, to help his teammates out. I never thought I'd been another melee, but I'm smack bang in the middle of it. Hey, tempers are absolutely flaring. Christian, look,
So I drag him out.
take to get in there and support your teammates. Really good first quarter, 5.
Oh, no. You became a UFC commentator mid-chat.
And it's one of those rare things that I didn't expect to have half an interview and then all of a sudden have to commentate this melee. I didn't know how long it was going to go for. I didn't know if Christian was going to come out and then
finish the interview.
Find me to finish the interview, because when you're in a melee, your adrenaline's flowing. The last thing you want to think of is having an interview. You want to be going after the person that's grabbed you by the throat.
Absolutely.
Did you two used to love, well, actually Campbell, you particularly, but also you, Brownie, did you two love a melee?
What?
I love a Miele dishwasher at the moment. It's working really well, Dan.
It's melee.
Mate, on what planet is it melee?
I think it's a French word, melee.
Beck, chime in here. If you don't have any real knowledge on it, please be honest. But have you ever heard melee in regards to a fight?
Well, JB's right. I've only heard of the dishwasher, so...
You son of a bitch.
It's a French
just
word.
Shows how insipid Port Adelaide people are at the moment.
It's a reflection.
Pronouncing a melee, an good old-fashioned Donnybrook, a dust-up. You're calling it a melee, like a real wanker. What are you trying to do, mate?
Why does weird stuff always happen to me?
On every game you
every
do.
week, a seagull on me, and
You handled that very well and actually added to the atmosphere. You were commentating the fight, brother.
Yeah.
And what's that boss's name at Channel 7 called?
Yes, Martin.
If Martin was watching that, mate, you're
I've
back in
got
the
the call up next week for Carlton and Richmond, so I'm back,
There was a
baby.
bit of Joe Rogan about you. Going to put you on the UFC.
Bit of
I just
Dana
wish
White.
I'd said, in hindsight, I walked off saying, geez, I should have said, it's shades of line in the sand here and a few other things that were a little bit more exciting.
So when you get yourself involved in a melee, so do you kind of like, when it's all happening, do you look around and who you'd most like to go and like, I've got him covered, I've got him covered, I've got him covered, and you go to that person? What is the protocol?
Look, I had to follow up my questions with Christian Salem, but I would have loved to have gone to someone like Jack Viney. Yeah, I reckon if I have to go to war, the first bloke that I'm going to choose in the current crop is Libba and Viney, and from the former crop, I'm going to say Stephen Baker and Mad Mitch Robinson. I think they're the four.
I like how you say Libba, because he's not a big man, but can you see the mongrel in him? Can you see what it takes?
Yeah, animal. Fight to the death. That's all you want in a teammate in a melee.
Who'd you most like to have on your team? Who was a real goer?
The Scott brothers were, geez, they were dangerous in a street fight. Don't you worry about that. We had a melee, about 15 melees against Essendon one night. They had no rules game when James Hird came back after his fractured skull. And the Scott boys were prevalent in that. There was about $100,000 worth of fines there, boys. Vossi could go. Chrissy Johnson could go. Pikey, we had a few scrappers. Don't worry about that. These days, I reckon one from your old team I wouldn't mind in a dark alley, Brown Dog, and that's John Newcomb. He built like a brick.
Yeah, he has a crack. Dean Solomon would have been he was
Solly,
a coach
absolutely.
of mine up in Gold Coast, but I would have loved to have been in a couple of wrestles with him.
Hey,
he was a bad man.
Let's play a spontaneous game of which Scott brother is the biggest psychopath? Jonathan.
Past and present. So as a player and now as a coach.
One name.
One name. Come on.
No, that's
Need an answer.
That's tough. Well, Chris is the oldest by a minute, I think. So I'll give it to Chris.
What? Because he's older? That's
He's older. Just because you always have that intimidation factor over your younger brother, don't you?
Dog?
But they're both very good scrappers.
I'd say I would have been more scared of Brad as a player and Chris as now currently in the media because he's got these eyes. The only person that's really seen death in the eyes of Chris Scott was Chris Fagan. You remember when they went at each other down at Cadinia
Jeez, that was
Park?
great, wasn't it? For old Fags. Fags, he might have, I wouldn't have minded a heart rate monitor on him there, Brown Dog. They just might have dashed up a couple of beats or may have momentarily stopped, I reckon.
JB, does Fags have mongrel in him? Because he looks like a sweetheart.
Yeah.
He does.
Well, yeah, he does. Absolutely. He's got mongrel in him. But I'm not sure I'd be backing him in. I'm not sure. Yeah, long odds against Chris Scott, I would have thought that day. Like, he's spotted him 20 years and about 25 kilos of
I'd say he'd be 18th on the order of entry for coaches and winning a fight.
No, Ross
He
Lyon.
couldn't even
Ross
slide
Lyon
down
is-
that bloody ice freeze. He couldn't even do the freeze challenge properly without tearing his hamstring off the bone.
Rossi Lyon was mad as a footballer.
Yeah, but-
he'd come off the line and absolutely poleaxe.
But today, Ross Lyon, you can see him being good at darts.
Don't let his new fun, relaxed exterior
He's
disguise
got
what's
10 seconds
underneath.
of cardio in him, and then he's cooked. Truly 10 seconds. Kenny Hinkley,
Mate, he is.
also about 30 seconds, I reckon.
Kenny
The boy
be
from
7.
Reservoir. The boy from Reservoir, he's a tough bastard. I grew up as a Fitzroy supporter, and he could iron blokes out.
We need to rank. We need to rank 1 to 18.
One of the coaches.
Yeah.
Oh, Vossi would be close to number 1. He's still got
Well,
it.
let's not speculate. On the first pod back, we'll have the 1 to 18 who
Okay, the ladder.
like Mortal Kombat, but for coaches.
I love that.
That's Street Fighter, but it doesn't matter. While we're in melee territory, I just thought it was very fun to watch the DeConing brothers, John. Did you see him savagely just giving each other the for 3 hours?
Oh, no, that was hard. It was great television, wasn't it? But I'm not sure about Scotty's decision to put Sam DeConing against his brother Tom. Tom's a first-rate ruckman in the competition, probably start challenging for All-Australian. Sam DeConing's a defender. So it was like putting... I don't know, putting lambs to the slaughter, putting him up against his brother. So I reckon it would have knocked his confidence around. It was great to watch, though. His mum looked like, their mums looked like they were having their mum looked like they were having a great time. She was having a great time, a few drinks, all that sort of stuff there. But Tommy, he was sensational, wasn't he? And Sam, I reckon he might have been a little bit flat after the game Friday night because they were awesome, the Carlton Blues, they knocked over Geelong big time.
Oh my God, they gave him a big old spanking.
What do you think about Dangerfield's tackle first?
On the night, I thought it was fine. I've watched the replay. I don't think he could have done much more. I think if we're going to be rubbing players out for that, there was no double action. Player got up, took the free kick, played the game out. I think they're adjudicating that far too harshly. And it does need to change, because you can't have players missing football for that sort of tackle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I think at the end of the day you can fine them. I think you can bring a fine in. They've been fines all over the weekend. Yeah, it's bloody hard, isn't it, when a player's running away trying to bring them down. What about big Tomahawk? Tomahawk looks like he's going to be able to get back, Brown Dog. He's got a foot strain, and hopefully he'll be able to get back. But, geez, he's really struggling, isn't he? And so maybe this could be the freshen up that might help him.
Yeah, absolutely, because while he's fit, he's going to play, and you know that. So he's been out of form for the majority of the year. There was a lot of speculation that was going to be career-ending. They were talking about things in the foot that no one really knew, navicular and things like that. But
Liz Frank always gets a run.
Yeah, gets a run. But in the end of the day, it's probably the best case scenario. He'll come back and play footy again, and they desperately need him up and about, because this is going to be his last season as an AFL footballer. There's no doubt about that.
Heard that before.
Yeah, I think he's, he's contemplating. Yeah, look, he's not going to go around next year. He's contemplating retirement. And so every game from now on, when you've made that decision, is going to be precious. So he's going to miss however many weeks he misses, but hopefully it gives him a freshen up.
John,
what do you think about Tom Stewart? Yeah, the challenge is now for Tom Stewart. A big part of their offence, the Cats, is that he takes intercept marks and they go straight back at the oppo. And we haven't seen that for the last 7 weeks because he's been getting tagged. Chincotta went to him on the weekend or Friday night and did a good job. Becoming a real problem for Tom Stewart, and clearly he's frustrated.
I'm loving the fact that coaches are using the defensive forward. Port Adelaide did it to great effect when they played him down at GMHBA Stadium.
McEntee.
Yeah, you can't let a guy. I mean, he's been, 5-time All-Australian.
Yeah.
He's an intercepting freak. Mm-hmm. But he has the balance absolutely right because he defends and wins one-on-ones, but then he zones off and takes these intercept marks, and then away they go. You can't allow him to do that. Mm-hmm. So the fact that they're putting time into him and they're getting him his less disposals, less intercept marks and possessions, and Geelong, it's affecting their ball movement. So, and Chincotta hit the scoreboard, kicked a couple as well. It worked absolutely magnificently. And Tommy Stewart, that's going to be his lot in life now because sides have shown what they can do to nullify him. And he still has an impact. It's not like he was useless, but it's just not as much as we've seen over the last 5 years.
I would have loved to see him go forward when Tomahawk went down. It would have been great to throw him forward because he's a beautiful athlete. Beautiful mark as well, and obviously Cameron was up the field, so it would have been good to just throw him on the wing before into the midfield. I would have loved to have seen him forward.
Yeah, that's a good call, JB. I'd never thought about that, but you're right. He could absolutely go forward and take a catch. A bit like Jeremy Howe.
I went and watched Eagles Essendon at Marvel. By the way, Essendon get crowds, man. It was sold out when I went there.
They do now.
Hell?
Well, they're a bit like Richmond, weren't they, back in 2017 when the Richmond revolution started and the people started turning up to the footy again. They're one of the big original clubs.
Well, I firmly believe that all clubs fans are dickheads, Campbell. Every club, footy fans are largely dickheads. They call holding the ball way too early. A series of annoys me, but I swear the Bombers. And I've been sticking up for Bombers the whole year, excited for them. They're quite a whingy mob.
Well, until they win a final, I don't want to hear about them. Honestly, it doesn't matter what you do in the home and away season. They haven't won a final for 20 years.
Well, they've been cooked since we bowled them over and over, so they just haven't recovered.
Yeah, they've been cooked since the line in the sand game as well, double cooked.
Just want to say it was a 30-point loss to the Eagles, but that wasn't accurate. The Eagles were with them most of the game.
Until they weren't.
Who gives a
They got back into the game. Jake Stringer kicked 5. Yes, he's been solid. He's the match winner there. But
you see Caddy's
West
first
Coast
goal?
is showing something.
You see Caddy's first goal for the Bombers?
No, I didn't, mate.
It was off the hook, a snap from the corner. Yes.
So on the back of Saturday night's melee, Brody, it got my juices flowing a little bit. So I strided into Rod Laver Arena last night to watch Jerry Seinfeld because I thought Sunday night, need a good laugh to end the week, you know. And what
went
better
protesting, were
man?
you?
What better man? And I had in my mind any Palestinian protesters that come out and ruin my night, but also the audience's night. For a comedian, we should be there laughing, smiling, having fun, enjoying it. I was going to spear tackle. All right.
Well, like, just for some context, the protesters anti-Jerry Seinfeld.
Just pro-Palestine because he's Jewish.
Yeah, but like,
So-
I don't think they're anti anyway. So there was a risk.
They Sydney concert, the first Melbourne
Gotcha.
concert, everywhere we went,
Yep.
there was some disruption.
Yep.
And I was adamant. I looked around. Yeah, security was okay. There were some policemen on the outside, but I'd made the decision that if anyone was going to interrupt the show, I was going to take it as my responsibility to end them.
This is how you will end up in prison. Do you
That is
understand?
magnificent.
Anyway, guess what?
This is how you're going to jail. You
I
don't need
would've
to
got
be
a
that
standing.
guy.
No, I wanted to be the guy. I know I didn't need to, but we didn't need Spider-Man either. Then it's sort
Now,
of
you know what it was? Because he almost was in the melee on Saturday night.
Yeah,
He almost-
hey.
we didn't need Spider-Man.
Yeah, John, we're going to sit on that one. We didn't need Spider-Man either. Have you lost your mind?
So it was the only show of his tour that went completely smooth sailing, and there were no protesters.
Thanks to Spider-Man.
So that Brown Dog didn't have to execute an execution.
Every pod, I just...
Execution.
I know you're insane, but like it just gets higher. Ads. Back in a second. Welcome back to Browny's podcast. Jonathan, you're up north, so you didn't get like the chat before the mics went on in the studio today.
No, what happened?
Beck reckons she played golf over the weekend and she struck the ball so well that sparks came off the driver. And she's not joking. Over to you.
That means you're hitting off a footpath.
I had eyewitness there, guys, and I was on the tee box, okay? So I reckon it's from the bunker. Like, I landed in the bunker the previous hole, and there was, like, rocks attached to the golf ball.
Okay.
And-
so when I set up,
You claim that witnesses saw sparks come off your...
I have eyewitnesses, guys. So they said they saw sparks, could have caused clubhouse fire.
Yeah.
Like, who,
John?
yeah.
Well, you know that some bunkers in some clubs have got concrete aggregate in the base of them to help with their flood mitigation. So that's probably what it was. You might have hit the base. You've gone through the sand. You've chopped up so much sand, Beck, that you've actually hit the concrete base of the bunker.
There you go.
There you go, and collected some rocks.
Well, Beck,
That's a rock.
you've
So
solved
maybe go
golf.
skimming a little bit lighter, I reckon.
You've solved golf, and that's just more proof. Remember Michael Porter, the lovely great of the game that the AFL said was dead.
Yeah, potholes they called him.
Potholes, right. Good guy.
Was it portholes or
Yeah,
potholes?
I think it was potholes.
Oh, well done. Well done.
He said it with such
Yeah, such conviction.
Hey, he's a Hawthorn premiership player. You got to know this.
So he came out and spoke about this thing because his phone was blowing up. Are you alive? Are you alive? Blah, blah, blah. He's a sweet guy. Have a listen to what he had to say about the whole debacle, about the AFL on a big night, just putting him into a group of deceased people.
I must admit, I wasn't. I just thought, oh, well, they got it wrong. And that's worse than them making a mistake is probably the fact is that I read today that the AFL said that they'd actually spoken to me and they haven't. I think that's... they made a mistake, and then they're saying, well, we've contacted him. You know, he understands, but they haven't contacted me. I don't think that's all that flash.
So the first mistake is the mistake, right?
Yeah, man.
The second thing is the lie to cover up the
lie.
mistake.
That's some bullshit. He deserves 12 bottles of red, flash stuff.
Couple of grand final
Yes.
tickets, I reckon.
Couple of grand finals.
Sorry for
Bare
the-
minimum.
So who
pain that we
said
caused.
they made the call? Who said they got in contact?
Some knob at the AFL, and they've messed this one up. They're going to make this right. Now listen to what he said.
Well,
He crowbars a little comment here that I thought was very funny, John. Now he says points. He pronounces the word points a bit funny. So just with that in mind.
You know, I'm alive and I'm well. Had 43 points at golf today.
pints or points? 43 pints at golf would be a bloody good effort.
Mate,
You'd be hitting them well by the end of it, Beck. Maybe you should take a lesson from Portholes.
Beck and Portholes as a duo.
I think when you go ahead and do it.
All right, well that sounds great. Taggers. Let's talk about taggers. Who was this? Who was this?
Well, I wanted to talk about the staging first, Dino,
Sure.
because Stephen May, on Saturday night, he staged for the head knock, and the umpire fell into it and paid the free kick. I'm not having a crack at the umpire, boys, because the umpires are told, if in doubt, it looks like there's a head contact, pay the free kick. So we're making this game harder and harder for the umpires to umpire because players are now starting to dip their head into the ground. So he got a fine. There was calls for a suspension from Stephen May. May have been a little bit harsh, but this is the byproduct of all this protecting of the head. Now, we're going through a pretty heavy phase at the moment with concussion talk and all that sort of stuff. The last thing we need in our game is players to start staging as if they've hit their head on the ground to draw free kicks.
I've got a solution to that, and you'll never see another AFL player do it again.
Really?
Yep.
So what you're about to suggest will solve the problem for everyone.
You're not going to spear tackle him, are you?
No. So instead of copping a fine, right, you get rewarded at the time with the free kick or the potential to get a free kick. Worst case scenario, like we've seen with Stephen May, is you get the fine. We haven't seen too many staging fines given this year by the MRO. But if you get up holding your neck and wincing in pain and, then the umpire says, righto, free kick. Yep, you've hit your head. Now you need to go off for 15 minutes and have an MRI, HIA.
Hey, that's a pretty good idea.
And you'll pass the HIA because you didn't hit your head in the first place, but you'll be on the bench for 15 minutes.
Dog, I thought you were going to say some dumb then. That's brilliant.
Yeah. And what'll happen is you'll have players that genuinely hit their head and neck and stuff, and they get up cradling it, and they've actually done it. So they'll need to get an HIA anyway. And the players will immediately stop feigning, driving their head into the ground after the shoulders hit it, and there's no way they can get injured, and they won't be getting up wincing in front of the umpire.
Because players do not want to lose minutes. It's their crack. They need to be on the ground.
If Stephen May went off for 15...
It's instantaneous consequence. Absolutely. That's what Brown Dog's talking about. The fine's not enough. Free kick's not enough.
Because if May goes off for 15 minutes, JB, and Larky kicks a goal or two, mate, that's the game. And Goodwin's going, oh, my God, we've just lost our best defender. He was arguably the best man on the ground for 15 when he didn't have to.
Did Stephen wince more after that tackle or when you punched him in Vegas?
Good question. Jonathan, that's a legitimate, that could be a really good idea.
Is that the first good thing I've ever said on the podcast?
Well, it's been discussed behind the scenes, but Brown Dog, they've got to take notice of what you're saying at AFL House. So I know that... it just seemed like you said, it's instantaneous consequence, no question about it, and it's for the good of the game and to make it easier for the umpires. It seems like a pretty easy solution, doesn't it? Because we know $1,000 fines, Dog, and $1,500 fines, and the wages that the players are on these days is not going to cut it.
The AFL haven't taken me seriously since 2013 when I defended myself at the tribunal and I quoted Isaac Newton's third law of motion.
In a suit. I love the fact that you represented yourself like Ted Bundy.
Yeah, we both got the same result. The death penalty. I never played again.
You know, $1,000. Stephen May would spend that on entrees at Nobu.
Yeah, or
Entrecôte.
All three of us were in sync just then.
All right, hey, taggers. Do we like taggers? Are they? Is it?
I like how
affecting...
it's come back. Brown Dog, do you have a tag?
I tagged Jason Ackermanis once. How'd
that go?
Mate, he gave me osteitis pubis. He ran that hard. Seriously. I've never run that hard in my life. And then my groins blew up.
Well, you were quick. That's probably why Clarko would have put him on you. Put you on him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love the fact the taggers have come back. And I always think there's room for it in the game. Jared Berry's done a good job for Brisbane the last few weeks. Chincotta's done a good job in a different role, sometimes outside the centre square. But it just goes to show you can have a tagger in your team and it doesn't stuff up your team defence like Ross Lyon said a couple of weeks ago. So I love being able to go to the footy and follow a matchup, don't you reckon? Because it doesn't happen nowadays. Like, it doesn't happen as much with the key defenders and the key forwards, the Jakovic-Carey matchups back in the day because these zoning defences. So it's just great to be able to go there, put the binoculars on a matchup and just follow it all day long.
It's important. Windhagen does a bit for the Saints, and I think it's. I put it this way: I'm more of a defensively minded coach. I love defensive forwards and taggers, and I just think that if you're going into a game and you're not looking at minimising or disrupting the best player in the opposition's game, then what the hell are you doing? Like, what are you doing? So I would always engage a run with, no doubt about it. But I don't never want to coach again because can't be.
But it's interesting though, and it's great to follow because you get storylines out of it, Brown Dog, whether there's a blue or teammates sticking up for the guy that's been tagged and they come in to stick up for him, or what happened last week when Alistair Clarkson got absolutely smashed for changing that matchup with Dacos and Will Phillips, even though Will Phillips was absolutely cooked in the third quarter from Nick Dacos running him ragged. But there's good storylines to come out of it.
Back after the ads. We're not going to talk about Jonathan's house because he doesn't want it in the papers. See you. This is Brownie's podcast. John, congrats on the whatever little rusty shack you moved into because you moved out. Congratulations. It's very exciting. What a World is coming up. But we're going to be taking a 2-pod break after this session. And after we get back, we're going to put back in the air talks of another listener party in some capacity. We've just got to get it back in the air. Yes or no, people?
Yeah, of course.
Absolutely. Yeah, we do want it. We want it for finals, don't we? Aren't we aiming for finals?
I want
prelim final, ideally.
Yep, absolutely. Dog, time for
What a World. Now, this is an absolute beauty. There's a US citizen called Cherish who was swindled out of $700,000 She bought artificial jewellery. She thought that she was getting necklaces and beautiful jewellery ornaments from Jewellery Bazaar in Jaipur, a nice little shop, right? And she discovered upon paying $700,000 that, which equates to 6 crore in rupees, for those of you following along in terms of currency exchange. It was really worth 300 Indian rupees, which was the equivalent of $4. So she's been absolutely duped, right?
Jesus.
And how dumb must you be if you're buying, jewelry from Jaipur thinking it's real? But Jurav and Rajendra Soni are now fugitives on the run. They're the owners of the shop that managed to get hold of Cherish, and the one thing that she won't be doing is cherishing that jewellery for much longer because she lost $700K. What a world!
Nicely put, dog.
I just pulled up this business on Google, and can we try and call them Broads, or has this got a bit of prank calls are a bit frowned upon?
Hasn't got a nurse on the end of the line, has it, Dino?
I don't think so, no. Hey, great show, everyone. John, enjoy your little week off. I'm not asking you about the house, but how's it been? Do you at least have a swimming pool? Can you just answer that?
Yes, we've got a little swimming pool. Nice little swimming pool.
50 metres.
You know I'm coming up there, man.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got room for you there, mate. Come up and I'll look after you. A couple of beers in the back deck. Be just beautiful.
Dog.
Crab pots out and we're laughing.
Dog, I know you didn't have a drink over the weekend, and mate, you're sharp.
Am I sharp?
Yes.
Did you tell?
Jesus.
Yeah, I'm clarity, focus. I'm ready.
How much?
Actually, you're a bit like Justin Timberlake's mugshot.
Mate,
What about him? He's
Mate, he looked remarkably sharp though. It's like they let him dress up, get ready for the mugshot, put the eye drops in, and then mate, he stared the camera straight down the barrel. That's a mugshot you want to get.
He's bring a drink driving back. Well, goodbye.
what I like then, Campbell just headphones off. See you later. He's mic drop. See you, gang. Love you all.